Hello students, in this class we are going to discuss about process of communication. Communication may be defined as a process concerning exchange of facts or ideas between persons holding from different positions in an organization to achieve mutual harmony. The communication process is dynamic in nature rather than a static phenomenon. Communication is very important for any development activity and more so for rural extension work. 4 levels of communication. To understand the relationship between people and communication, we need to look at the relationship from at least 4 different points of view. According to Thayer in 1963, referred 4 levels of analysis of human communication, which are interpersonal, intrapersonal, organizational, and interorganizational communication. Intrapersonal communication. This means to communicate with oneself. It means organizing and converting sensory data into meaningful messages having some relevance or value for an individual earlier period. Current or upcoming behavior, because the mental system of a human is continuously busy in making sense of its environment. In the service of the organism, adaptive and goal-seeking needs. The question is not whether communication is going to happen, but what communication and with what consequences. Communication is a constant process and is determined by an individual ability and susceptibility. However, these abilities are function of the capacity of an individual conceptual system to ascribe meaning or significance to certain patterns and sequences of the events going on in his internal and external environment. It has been said that we comprehend nothing of our words which is not part of us. The interpersonal communication mainly occurs to face-to-face situation when the participant see, hear, and even touch the other person. Thus, it gives immediate feedback. As a result, the participant in a communication encounter have a chance to structure and restructure communication based on the response of the other. So, interpersonal communication is a co-function of the individual based on his immediate relevance for what is happening in his environment. Interpersonal communication. Life of human is largely a matter of communicating. Thus, it would be difficult to make a sense of people and their behavior towards one another without taking communication into account. It would be difficult to talk about human communication without taking into account something about the nature of people. This implies that interpersonal communication should be understood as we understand interpersonal behavior. Interpersonal communication is thus not a different occurrence, but the same occurrence seen from the different level of analysis. The basic functions and process of communication at the level of interpersonal communication are not different. The basic phenomena are the same. People are a part of our environment. However, people bring expectations to their interpersonal encounters. They also bring expectations about their other expectations. These expectations continuously influence their communication behavior towards each other and their response to each other. Thus, interpersonal communication may be seen as a process of reciprocal regulation and control. Interpersonal communication is thus an attempt on the part of at least one of the participants to establish, maintain, exploit, or alter some relationship with the other, either by adjusting himself to the other or by trying to adjust the others to him in some way. Thus, immediate and ultimate consequences are resulted by the communication processes which occur within each participant. Organizational communication. An organization is an established structure of individuals who work jointly to attain certain common goals and objectives. Similar to human beings, organization also establishes and maintains themselves through communication with their environments. So, organizational communication refers to all those data flows that subordinate the organization communication and interpersonal communication process in some way. Organizational communication is a different form of communication. As it happens, is a highly ordered settings. It is believed to be a two-way communication where an idea should travel to and fro without distortion or bias. It determines the quality and climate of human relationship in an organization. Communication requirements and roles of an organization are fulfilled through minimum 3 systems. The operational communication system. In this structure, the information, duty related actions and operation are communicated within the organization from its different sources. Sometimes mediators are involved for its gaining approval and final conception to be made by the members of the organization. The regulatory communication system. This system conveys orders, rules and instructions that are intended to control material or information processing functions of the member of an organization. Such regulatory functions are initiated by organization managers, may be within or outside the organization. These regularity messages are those the natural consequences of the problem definition behavior of the organization managers. The preservation and growth of communication system. This system is providing feedback about the situation of the people or the communication. Channels upon which the organization is dependent. It is useful for the inflow of resources of information from the environment or organization and internal functioning and relationship with various components of the organization. Such a system is essentially because it is the people in an organization who finally decide the working effectiveness and efficiency of any human organization. This system is useful for protective preservation or corrective information of one sort or the other. Inter-organizational communication is a system developed by every organization to communicate with other organizations. Though it should be set aside in mind that organization itself do not intercommunicate, but it is the only people working in the organization who communicate. Key elements of communication. There are many communication models which serve a variety of purposes. They range from single event analysis, which can be used to instruct beginners, to complex models which are usually understood only by specialists in the field of communication. The model which contains 6 important elements: communicator, message, channel, treatment of message, audience, and audience response is explained. Communicator. The communicator is the key person in the process of communication. He is the person responsible to organize and manage the whole process of communication. The main duty of the communicator is to create common understanding between himself and his audience by considering all other elements of communication through creative, conducive situation for the whole process of communication. Message or content. The message is what the sender attempts to transmit to his specified receivers. The content of the message includes any data, information, pictures, figure, decision, declaration, statement, claims, arguments, appeal, and themes which sender transmit to the receivers. Thus, a message may consist of a statement of scientific facts about agriculture, sanitation, and nutrition or any other subjects. A message is the information a communicator wishes his audience to receive, understand, and accept and act upon. Characteristics of ideal or effective message. Following are some of the characteristics which make the message more effective and acceptable. Accurate, scientifically sound, factual, and correct. Adequate, theory and practical should have a relationship. Applicable in real life situation. Appropriate to the channel selected. Attractive, according to the urgent need, interest, and problem of the audience. Clear, it should be easy to understand. According to the mental ability of the learner. According to the objective of the extension work. According to the social economical and physical capability of the audience. Manageable, it should be able to handled by the communicator. Significant, socially, economically, and aesthetically to the needs and interest of the audience. Simply stated, covering one point at a time. Specific, no irrelevant materials. Supporting both sides, positive and negative sides. Timely, according to season. It should be in local language. Message must contain something worth saying. Message distortion. The distortion of message is any kind of loss, deformation, or misrepresentation taken place in original message while sending it to the audience. There are three types of distortions of messages: systematic or stitch, fog, and mirage. Systematic or sketch distortion. In case of systematic, no information is lost, but it is changed or recorded in an orderly or systematic way. Thus, in this case, the information is purposefully changed in a systematic way to serve some specific objective. This type of distortion may be useful for extension worker for effective treatment of the message. Fog distortion. In fog distortion, information is lost, masked, or fogged over because of their inability of communicator to encode the communicate and or the inability of the receiver to interrupt message with complete fidelity. Mirage distortion. In mirage, audience receives something that which is not there actually. Mirage gives extra unwanted information. It is unwanted because it is likely to result in mistaking the messages as relevant information. Thus, it introduces errors into the insight. Extension worker, while painting a shining picture with regard to new ideas, may create a mirage type distortion in the mind of the farmers. Explanation of ineffective communication caused by message. In a process of communication, content of message and other qualities of the message are the key factors to attract the attention of audience. Some of the following inaccuracies in the component of message can produce unproductive communication. Fail to convey your message into easy to understand form. Fail to explain advantages of the messages. Fail to prepare and organize message properly. Fail to present the message in a proper way. Fail to select the message as per the need of the audience. Fail to separate key message from the set of content. Fail to time the message. Fail to view the message from point of view of audience. Use of inaccurate symbols, may words, visuals, or models. Channels. Social scientists recognize two types of channels. First type contain sensory channels based on the 5 senses of sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. And second type include institutionalized means such as face-to-face conversation, printed materials, and the electronic media. We use the institutionalized means to transmit most of our messages. Each institutionalized medium requires one or more sensory channels to carry the message from the sender to the receiver. For instance, when we use face-to-face conversation, we make use sight, gestures, expression, sound or voice, and possibly touch, smell or taste. Social scientists have generally found that the receiver attention is more likely to be gained if the sender uses the combination of institutionalized means using 2 or more sensory channels. When applying the multi-channel concept to real situation, you need to consider the 3 basic institutionalized means and the minimum of 2 of the sensory channels, specifically sight and sound. Face-to-face conversation has the greatest potential for getting the receiver's attention. Definition of channel. A channel is anything used by a sender of a message to connect him with his audience. A channel is a physical bridge between sender and the receiver of the message. A channel is the avenue between a communicator and audience on which message travel to and fro. A channel is a transmission line used for carrying messages to their destination. As result of research carried out on the effectiveness of channel by social scientists, the following overviews have been stated. A variety of method is more effective than a single method. Different media attract different types of audiences. Effective films are approximately equal to an instructor for the presentation of facts and the demonstration of concepts. Face-to-face communication is the most effective forum to improve the skill of the audience. In other conditions are kept constant, the mental functions of recognition, verbism, recall, and suggestibility seem more effectively aroused in listening. The critical attitudes and discriminative comprehension are favored by reading. New communication devices generally help to put across the message. No single device is always the best in all situations. Non-printed devices are often very effective. Oral argument is more effective in producing changes in opinion than printed argument. The use of devices must be organized and planned. Old age persons and children prefer traditional channels to learn information. Bringing chance in attitude of audience can be done effectively by using channel which includes principle. Treatment of message. The treatment of the message is the arrangement or ordering of the content by the sender. In order to make the message more attractive and receptive, the communicator should arrange the effectively content. The treatment of the message play an important role in communication. This process depends upon the communicator's communication skill, attitude, knowledge level, position in social system and culture. Emotional appeal has relatively more effect than rational appeal. However, research evidence is not very consistent on this point. The impact of the communication is also influenced by order in which the various points are presented. There are 4 methods of giving treatment to the message. These ways are methods of general organization, methods of attracting attention, methods of symbol, variation, and devices for presentation of idea. Methods of general organization. It is how effectively you present the message. Replicate key ideas or key concepts. Try to compare and dissimulate of important ideas. Present the thoughts in sequential, logical, and mental sequences. Try to illustrate one side or both sides of an idea based on situation and audience. Try to begin with powerful argument. Present message with reasoning. Describe clear end product or give that chance to audience to decide. Second one, methods of attracting attention. It is how effectively you attract attention of audience. Intensity. Use loud noise, a flash of light to attract attention of audience. Extensity. Use of large stimulus to attract attention. Movement. Present measure with unusual movement, gesture to attract attention. Change the contrast. Change in the rate of movement, loudness to attract the attention. Methods of talking. It is how effectively you present ideas by way of effective speech. Try to cover only one idea. Try to present idea in your own natural style. Never try to act. Present timely idea in the specific manner with accurate and the latest background. If possible, do not read your speech always. After knowing the audience, try to speak their language to make them realize and you know them to take care of them. Never try to criticize audience and their views. Try to speak in local language and use proverbs, stories, humors with personal touch. Fourth one, method of using symbols. It is how effectively you select methods of presentation. Looking to the situation, try to use different symbols or methods to bring novelty while communicating message. One can use word symbol, speech, real object, model, specimen, graph, films, slides, picture to make message understandable and acceptable. Audience. Audience or receiver is an important element for the communication process. The audience must be present to interrupt and respond to the conveyed message. The goal of communication is reached when the audience or receiver accept the center message. Attention and comprehension are the means of receiver uses to attain the goal of acceptance of the message. Attention is the process by which the receiver tunes into a message or read it. The sender must consider the receiver and treat the message in such a way that receiver attention is more easily gained and explained. Comprehension implies understanding of the message by the receiver. Here again, the sender must consider its intended receiver and use message content and treatment that will enable the receiver to understand the message. Once the receiver has attended the message and comprehend or understand the content, his next task is to accept the message on the least 3 levels. The cognitive, that is, the receiver accept the message content as true. The affective, the receiver believes that the message is not only true but good. Overaction, where the receiver believes that the message is true, believe it is good, takes the appropriate action. One consideration required at this point to note that receivers are more inclined to accept message content which agree with their previous attitudes. The sender has a less difficult task if his message agrees with the receiver attitude. If the receiver disagrees with the sender's message, acceptance is less likely. Types of audience. Classification of audience is lengthy process because many factors, character and situation can be considered to classify the audience. They can be classified in many ways and some of them are as follows. According to the occupation, farmers, artisans. According to the profession, engineers, educators and administrators, etc. According to various characteristics like need, interest, social status, educational level, economic status, knowledge, adoption level of modernization, scientific orientation and risk orientation. According to availability, like possible audience, available audience and active audience in terms of physically and psychologically active. According to estimation, like intended audience means that they may either listeners who act upon the messages or listener who do not act on the message. While intended audience is other than intended audience of geographical area. Sixth, audience response or feedback. Audience response or feedback is the sender's way of determining the effectiveness of the message. It is a mental or physical reaction, response, reply or behavioral changes taken place in the audience as a result of communication process. At this stage, to receive results of the communication process, original communicators become audience and original audience becomes communicator. Thus, during the feedback, the communication process occurs in reverse direction. In case of possibility of two-way communication, there are more chances of speedy and easy feedback. If the sender sees furrowed brows or questioning facial expression in his receiver, he knows that they did not comprehend his message. However, the overt action taken by the receiver is the feedback that the sender uses to determine the amount of influence he has with the receiver. Thus, feedback measures influence. We know that democratic leadership involves influencing others. Feedback provides a method of eliminating miscommunication. It is most effective in face-to-face conversation, whether feedback is instant. Let me conclude. Communication is the integral part interlinking various subsystems such as political, economical, cultural, and technological in order to achieve a rapid and balanced form of development.